The learning paths for a game are found in the left-hand sidebar under the dashboard button. Every game has 4 different base level learning paths: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and pro. Within each of these levels is 8 weeks of training, with a final week of challenges to see if you're ready to move up to the next level. Each week of training has 3 activities: a skill introduction, a quiz, and then a drill as a final challenge before moving to the next week. Once you start a learning path, Valor will always let you know where you're up to with a little "Start Here" pop-up. A green bubble means you've completed this activity. A blue bubble means you haven't started yet. Orange means an activity has been skipped, and red means an activity was failed. If I click the skill intro bubble, symbolized by an eye, it displays the skill introduction video for that week's focus skill. In this case, we have jumping. We have an educational video created by a professional coach, which players watch and take in the information from, so they're ready to be tested in the upcoming quiz. Underneath the video are informational tabs showing how the skill is performed, tips and tricks for the player, and some bad habits to avoid. This information is always covered in the video, but we know it can sometimes be helpful to read it afterwards too. After watching the video, players click complete session. Here, they're asked a couple of well-being questions. These questions are meant to be answered honestly and not to impress teachers or friends. They ask how students feel about their training. Student well-being data can be tracked in the reporting function of Valor, and it can be a useful indicator of how students learn and what they enjoy. Next, let's click the quiz bubble, symbolized by a brain. Quizzes ask players 5 questions and contain a mix of text, image, and video-based questions. If a student answers a quiz question incorrectly, they can try that question again at the end of the quiz. If a student gets a question correct, they'll be provided with the explanation. Let's skip to the end of the quiz to see what happens if I answered some questions wrong. Now, I can go for round 2 and give those questions a second go. If a student still gets a question incorrect on their second try, the platform shows the correct answer and the explanation. As before, after completing a quiz, players are asked a couple of well-being questions. And now, the final part of the training session. Let's click the drill bubble, symbolized by a dumbbell. Here, players should watch the drill created by our professional coach, which will cover the overall exercise and how to perform any setup as required. Then, players should understand the challenge they need to complete, which is shown underneath the video. There's also a technical instructions tab containing setup instructions and a tips and tricks tab if our coaching team have any suggestions on how to best perform this exercise. What we recommend for students going through the learning path is to set up a drill and practice it for 5 to 10 minutes first before doing the final challenge run. Keep in mind, it can often be helpful for students to work in pairs or small groups to have peers assisting with things like stopwatches and score verification. Once a student enters their result, say they got 35 seconds for this exercise, they will then be asked a couple of well-being questions. Remember, they've just trained for about 10 to 15 minutes straight before doing the final challenge, so this well-being data will be very insightful for you to track. And again, ensuring students are answering these honestly is key. Once the well-being questions are answered, students are shown the session completed screen, where they can see how many stars they scored for the exercise and what level they're up to for the relevant skill. Right now, this student is up to advanced. Let's click continue to finish. And now we're done for the week. So that's a walkthrough on learning paths with Valor and how a student can use the Valor training platform to complete an esports training session within half an hour.